If you'd met Sarah Mitchell that spring, you'd never guess she had exactly 5 days left to live. Sarah Mitchell wasn't the kind of woman who gave up easily. But by March 2019, life had chipped away at her in quiet, invisible ways. She was 42, living in a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the north side of Indianapolis, and working as a dental hygienist at a clinic that smelled faintly of mint and sterilized metal. Most nights, after her daughters were asleep, she'd sit by the window with a cup of lukewarm tea and wonder if this was it. If this was all life had left for her: work, bills, and the quiet hum of loneliness. It had been almost 3 years since her divorce. 3 years since she'd stood in a lawyer's office, signed her name on a stack of papers, and promised herself she'd never let anyone close enough to hurt her again. But even the strongest walls start to crack when you've spent too long inside them. Friends said she should try dating again. Just meet people, her best friend Jessica would say. It's 2019, Sarah, not 1950. Everyone's online now. Sarah would always laugh it off. But on one Friday night, maybe out of boredom, maybe out of hope, she downloaded Tinder. Her bio was short: mom, dental hygienist, lover of coffee, old bookstores, and weekend road trips. Nothing fancy. No filters. No drama. Just Sarah, trying to believe there was still someone out there who might look at her and see more than just a single mom juggling everything alone. For weeks, her matches were forgettable. A few "hey beautifuls," a few awkward compliments, a few people who vanished mid-conversation. She was ready to delete the app again, until she saw him. Marcus Johnson. 45. Construction business owner. Widower. His profile photo was simple: jeans, flannel shirt, standing beside a pickup truck on what looked like a sunny fall afternoon. But what caught Sarah wasn't the photo, it was his message. He didn't start with "hey beautiful." He wrote, "You look like someone who appreciates quiet mornings more than loud nights. Am I right?" It made her laugh. It made her reply. That conversation stretched into hours, about music, books, faith, and family. Marcus was gentle, funny, easy to talk to. He said he'd lost his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. He said he admired how Sarah kept going for her daughters. He said all the right things, but not in the way that sounded rehearsed. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt seen. Her friends noticed the change almost immediately. She smiled more. She hummed while making breakfast. Even her daughter, 16-year-old Emma, teased her. "You're glowing, Mom. Is this like love glow?" Sarah blushed. "It's just nice to have someone to talk to again, that's all." Still, Jessica was cautious. "You know how these apps can be, right? Promise me you'll be careful." Sarah rolled her eyes but promised. "He's not like that, Jess. He's different." And maybe he was. Or maybe Sarah just needed to believe that someone could still surprise her in a good way. That weekend, Marcus asked if she'd like to meet in person, lunch at a small cafe in Brown County, about an hour south. He said it was quiet, cozy, and had the best pie in Indiana. Sarah hesitated at first. But Marcus's messages were consistent, kind. He never pressured, never made her uncomfortable. And so, against every small whisper of doubt in her mind, she agreed. That Friday night, she went to bed feeling something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Not the kind that begs, but the kind that breathes. She laid out her favorite jeans and a soft blue sweater, the one her daughters said made her eyes look brighter. She texted Jessica one last time before sleeping. "Meeting Marcus tomorrow. I'm excited, Jess. Really excited." Jessica replied with a line of heart emojis and one warning. "Call me every hour, okay? And if anything feels weird, you get out. Promise me." "I promise," Sarah wrote back. She smiled, set her alarm, and turned off the light. Outside, the quiet Indianapolis night hummed with spring air, soft, almost peaceful. If anyone had been watching from across the street, they'd have seen a woman finally daring to believe in second chances. And they'd have no idea she had exactly 5 days left. If you were in Sarah's shoes, lonely, rebuilding your life, and someone like Marcus came along, would you have said yes to that first date? Let me know down below. I'm really curious what you would have done. Before we continue with the story, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching around the world. It started with one swipe, and ended with a headline no one could forget. For weeks after her divorce, Sarah swore she'd never try online dating. She'd seen too many horror stories, too many screenshots of creepy messages shared in group chats, too many friends hurt by people who turned out to be nothing like their pictures. But loneliness has a way of whispering louder at night. One quiet Thursday evening, after washing dishes and helping Emma with homework, Sarah sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. Every app felt the same: bills, emails, weather, until she saw that pink and white Tinder icon again. She hesitated, thumb hovering above the screen. What's the worst that could happen, she muttered to herself. Then she downloaded it. The first few days were exactly what she'd feared: awkward conversations, fake profiles, and men posing with fish. One guy called her "sweet cheeks" before she even replied. Another sent her a picture of his truck and wrote, "This could be yours if you play your cards right." She laughed, but it was a tired laugh, the kind you give when you're trying not to feel disappointed. By day 5, she was ready to delete the app. But then, a new match popped up. Marcus Johnson, 45. His profile wasn't flashy. No gym selfies. No sunglasses. Just a man standing beside a silver Ford F-150 in front of what looked like an old red barn. The bio was simple too. Widower. Builder. Coffee over cocktails. Looking for something real. It wasn't the photo that caught her, it was the message he sent first. "You look like someone who loves slow mornings and hates small talk." Did I get that right? Sarah laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was true. She replied. "You're 2 for 2. Now tell me you also hate pineapple on pizza, and we might just be soulmates." He responded almost instantly. "Absolutely not. That's a food crime. I can't trust anyone who does that." It was light. It was normal. It was safe. For the next 3 hours, they talked, about work, about their favorite places in Indianapolis, about how he'd lost his wife, Emily, to cancer 4 years ago. He said working with his hands, building houses, restoring old cabins, had kept him sane. Sarah told him about her daughters, how she'd taken up hiking after her divorce just to feel like she was moving forward, even when life felt stuck. They laughed about bad coffee and shared playlists. It wasn't fireworks, it was something rarer. It was ease. Over the next few days, their chats became a routine. Morning good morning texts, midday jokes, and late night, "You still awake?" messages that stretched past midnight. Marcus never pushed, never flirted too aggressively. He asked questions, real ones. About her past, her kids, her favorite songs. And little by little, Sarah's walls began to lower. Jessica noticed the change. "You've been smiling at your phone for days," she teased. "Who's the lucky guy?" "Just someone I met online," Sarah said, trying to sound casual. "You're actually talking to someone from Tinder?" Jessica raised an eyebrow. "He's different," Sarah replied quietly. Still, there were moments, small, passing moments, that didn't quite fit. Marcus always avoided video calls, saying his camera was broken. He said he didn't have social media, too much noise, he'd joke. When Sarah once asked what part of town he lived in, his answer changed slightly the next time it came up. They were small things. So small that most people wouldn't notice. But Sarah did, she just didn't want to. Because for the first time in years, she felt chosen. Someone wanted to know her favorite songs, not just her age. Someone said, "You make me feel peaceful." And when you've spent years trying to convince yourself you're worth loving again, you learn to forgive small inconsistencies. 5 days later, Marcus asked her to meet in person. A small cafe he said his late wife used to love, tucked away near Brown County State Park, an hour's drive from Indianapolis. He said the coffee was strong, the pie unforgettable, and the view peaceful. Sarah hesitated, then typed. "Sounds perfect. Saturday?" "Saturday," Marcus replied. And then, "I can't wait to finally see you." When she put her phone down, her hands were trembling. Not from fear, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. Be honest, have you ever met someone online who just felt too perfect? The kind who seemed to say all the right things. Did it turn out well, or did your gut tell you something was off? Let's talk about it in the comments. If Sarah had written a checklist for the perfect man, Marcus would have ticked every box, right down to the morning texts that made her smile before sunrise. Marcus Johnson wasn't flashy, and that's exactly what made him stand out. He wasn't posting gym selfies or bragging about cars. His profile photos showed a man who seemed grounded, one hand resting on the back of a golden retriever, another holding a coffee mug in front of a workshop cluttered with wood and tools. His bio read simply: widower, small business owner, dog dad, building homes and healing hearts. It sounded real. It sounded human. Sarah had met enough men who used words like hustler and alpha to know what she didn't want. But Marcus talked about patience, about grief, about starting over. Their conversations quickly became the highlight of her days. They talked about everything, from childhood memories to the ache of loss. He told her about Emily, his late wife, how she'd battled cancer for 2 years before passing. He said losing her had felt like watching the light go out in his world. Sarah listened, quietly moved. She knew that feeling. Not from death, but from betrayal. Her ex-husband had left her for a younger woman 2 years after the divorce, starting a new family as if their 15-year marriage had never existed. Marcus's pain felt familiar, safe, even. Like they were two people walking out of different kinds of fire. That shared pain, that trauma bonding, became their connection point. When Marcus said, "It's strange how people like us find each other," Sarah replied, "Maybe it's not strange. Maybe it's what we both needed." Their messages turned softer. He started sending her good morning texts. "Morning, beautiful. Hope today treats you kindly." Then, "Thinking of you, just wanted you to know." Small gestures, but they mattered. When you've spent years being invisible, even a "good morning" can feel like sunlight. Their humor flowed easily too. Marcus joked about how his dog, Baxter, was the real reason women swiped right. Sarah teased that she only matched him for the dog content. Their chat stretched late into the night, the kind of conversations where you forget time exists. He asked her favorite comfort meal. She said grilled cheese with tomato soup. He said his was peanut butter toast at 2 a.m., because nothing bad ever happens when you're eating peanut butter toast. And that line, small, warm, silly, became their inside joke. Whenever one of them was having a rough day, they'd text, "Peanut butter toast moment." And the other would understand. For the first time in years, Sarah felt seen. Not as a mom, not as a divorcee, not as someone who'd been left behind, but as a woman. Jessica, her best friend, noticed immediately. "You're glowing," she said over coffee one afternoon. "Oh, stop," Sarah laughed. "No really," Jessica leaned in. "It's been a long time since I've seen you this happy." "He's different," Sarah said, and even she could hear the hope in her own voice. Jessica smiled, but it was cautious. Just remember, people online can be whoever they want to be. Promise me you're keeping your guard up. Always, Sarah said. He's safe, Jess. I checked everything. Business license, address, background. He's legit. Jessica nodded, but her eyes said something else, that kind of silent warning only a best friend can give. Marcus's texts became part of Sarah's daily rhythm, morning coffee, messages at lunch, a call before bed. Her daughters teased her about the mystery man, and she'd blush like a teenager again. There was a likeness to her now, a version of Sarah that had been missing for years. Even the small things, cooking dinner, driving to work, felt different when she had someone asking how her day went. And yet, sometimes, in quiet moments, she caught herself wondering. Marcus's stories were full of detail, but always about the past. He never said much about the present. When she once asked for a picture of Baxter, he said his phone storage was full. When she offered to FaceTime, he joked. "You'd hate my workshop hair. Let's save the disappointment for real life." Harmless excuses. Or were they? Still, Sarah didn't want to question it. She liked the version of herself she was with him, light, hopeful, open. She'd spent 3 years rebuilding after her divorce. Maybe, just maybe, she deserved this small happiness. So, when Marcus suggested meeting in person, a quiet cafe down south, the best coffee in Brown County, she didn't hesitate. She even told Jessica. "It's just coffee. I'll share my location and all his info. It'll be fine." Jessica sighed but smiled. "Fine. But text me every hour. And if anything feels off, you leave. Promise me, Sarah." "I promise," Sarah said. That night, as she lay in bed reading Marcus's goodnight text. "Can't wait to finally see you, Sarah. I think you're going to change my luck." She smiled to herself. In another life, maybe it would have just been a sweet line. But in this one, it would become the sentence investigators quoted in every news report. When someone seems too good to be true, do you trust your instincts, or do you give them a chance like Sarah did? Let me know what you do in the comments. I'm curious how you'd handle it. The invitation. Trust, that's the word Sarah kept repeating that Thursday morning. She trusted the plan, trusted the man, trusted herself. But trust has a way of blinding us, especially when it finally feels good again. It had been 12 days since Sarah first matched with Marcus. In that short time, he'd gone from a stranger behind a screen to someone she spoke with every morning and every night. She knew the sound of his laughter, deep, calm, reassuring, and she'd begun to crave it like oxygen. So when he finally suggested meeting in person, it felt natural. He sent the message around noon on a Wednesday. "Coffee date? I know a quiet place in Brown County. You'll love it, best blueberry muffins in Indiana." She stared at her screen, her heart fluttering. She reread it 3 times before replying. "That sounds lovely." Marcus responded almost instantly. "Saturday morning. 10 a.m. I'll pick you up, if you want. Easier than driving alone." That line made her pause. It wasn't the offer itself, it was the ease in how he said it. Like someone who already knew she'd say yes. Sarah hesitated, fingers hovering over her keyboard. She'd always been cautious. Always. Jessica's voice echoed in her head, people online can be whoever they want to be. Still, Marcus had checked out. She'd looked up his business, Johnson Custom Carpentry, and even found customer reviews. She'd searched his name in local listings. Everything matched. Phone number, address, even his dog's name in an old Facebook post. He was real. He'd told her about the cafe, the Willow and Bean, tucked along a scenic route in Brown County, about an hour south of Indianapolis. A cozy, quiet spot, he'd said. No crowds, no noise. Just you, me, and good coffee. It sounded perfect. When she told Jessica that night, her friend's expression froze halfway between excitement and worry. "He's picking you up?" Jessica asked carefully. "He offered, yeah," Sarah said, stirring her tea. "It's sweet, right?" "Sweet, or controlling," Jessica countered. "Jess, come on. I've checked him out. Everything's legit." "I'm not saying he's a monster," Jessica said softly. "I'm just saying, share your location, keep your phone charged, and text me the second you leave." Sarah smiled, trying to ease her friend's nerves. "I promise. I'll even send you a muffin selfie." Jessica didn't laugh. "I'm serious, Sarah. Be careful. Promise me." "I promise." Later that night, lying in bed, Sarah replayed the conversation. Why did Jessica's worry bother her so much? Marcus had been nothing but kind. Patient. Transparent. She trusted him, didn't she? That word again. Trust. It lingered in her mind like a song stuck on repeat. When she closed her eyes, she saw his smile from the profile photo, that easy, unthreatening grin. The way he always said, "You're safe with me." And she believed him. The next evening, Marcus called to confirm their plans. His voice came through warm and steady. "I'll be there at 9:15, he said. "I drive slow, never liked rushing good things." Sarah laughed. "Good thing." "Meeting you," he said simply. Her pulse quickened, and she felt that old teenage flutter, a mix of nerves and anticipation. They talked for nearly an hour, about weather, music, and small things that didn't really matter. And when the call ended, Sarah sat in silence for a while, smiling at nothing. She didn't notice how quiet her apartment had gotten. Or how the street outside had emptied completely. Only later, much later, would detectives note that this was the last phone call Marcus Johnson ever made from his registered number. But for now, it was just Sarah, the promise of blueberry muffins, and a heart daring to believe again. That night, she set out her outfit, soft blue sweater, dark jeans, and her favorite earrings. She even painted her nails, something she hadn't done in years. Before going to bed, she texted Marcus. "Can't wait to see you Saturday." He replied instantly. "Sleep well, beautiful. You can trust me." And there it was again, that word. Trust. A word that would later echo through every news headline, every podcast, every comment section. Because when Sarah Mitchell got into that car on Saturday morning, she wasn't just going on a date. She was stepping into a story that would haunt an entire state. Would you go if someone offered to pick you up like that? Even if they seemed completely trustworthy? Or would you insist on meeting there instead? Drop your answer below, I'm reading every comment. Then again, if you're enjoying this story, do us a favor by subscribing to this channel, like and share this video so it could reach more people, especially story lovers. That Saturday morning, the sky over Indianapolis looked like hope, pale blue, clear, and endless. Nobody watching Sarah Mitchell climb into that silver pickup truck would have imagined that this was the last sunrise she'd ever see. Marcus's truck smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. The passenger seat was spotless, a travel mug sitting in the cup holder, condensation tracing down its sides. He greeted her with that same easy smile she'd memorized from his pictures. "You look beautiful," he said, and for a moment, she felt like maybe, just maybe, this time, things could go right. Sarah fastened her seatbelt and glanced back at her apartment building, watching the reflection of the city fade in the truck's mirror. It was 9:27 a.m. She didn't know that investigators would later freeze that timestamp, the last confirmed footage of her alive. The drive started light and warm. Downtown traffic gave way to the quiet sprawl of Indiana's countryside, rolling fields, wooden barns, the smell of spring mud. Marcus's playlist filled the silence, soft classic rock, low enough for conversation. "You ever come down to Brown County much?" he asked. Not really, she said, watching the scenery blur. Used to go hiking when the girls were little. Feels like another lifetime. You should go more, he replied. It's peaceful. No noise. Just space to breathe. That word, peaceful, hung between them. Sarah studied him from the corner of her eye. He drove with one hand on the wheel, relaxed, confident. He laughed easily, told stories about his construction jobs, about his dog, Rusty. Everything felt normal. Almost too normal. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to Jessica. All good. Nice conversation. He's super sweet. Jessica replied with a thumbs-up emoji, followed by, don't forget to check in when you get there. Sarah smiled. She typed a response but didn't hit send. Marcus had just asked her something about her daughters, and she didn't want to seem distracted. The phone buzzed again, then lost signal as the truck turned off the main highway. The bars dropped to 1, then 0. Bad reception out here, Marcus said, glancing at her phone. Yeah, Sarah said, tucking it into her bag. I'll text her when we're closer. He nodded, eyes on the road. Smart. Always good to have someone know where you are. His tone was kind, almost proud, but there was something about the way he said it. Slow. Deliberate. Sarah brushed it off. The truck curved along the narrow country road, sunlight flickering through tree branches. Every now and then, Marcus hummed along to the music. After a while, conversation faded. The further south they drove, the quieter it became, no cars, no towns, just the sound of tires against gravel and the soft creak of the steering wheel. Sarah leaned her head against the window, letting the rhythm of the road lull her. For the first time in years, she felt safe. She closed her eyes and thought about how good it felt to laugh again. How maybe, after everything she'd survived, she finally deserved a little happiness. Then, a jolt. The truck slowed suddenly. Sarah blinked, startled. Everything okay? Yeah, Marcus said. Just a deer. They jump out sometimes. He smiled, but his knuckles were white against the wheel. A few minutes later, they passed a wooden sign that read, Brown County, population 15,031. Sarah exhaled, tension fading. She reached for her phone again, still no signal. How much longer? She asked lightly. Not far, Marcus said. Just a few more miles. His voice was calm. Too calm. Outside, the fields began to close in, trees thickening, the road narrowing until only thin slivers of light broke through the canopy above. The sun dimmed behind a wall of clouds. Sarah laughed nervously. Feels like we're in a horror movie. Marcus chuckled. If I were in one, I'd probably be the nice guy who dies first. She laughed too, but something about that line made her uneasy. The joke didn't land, not really. And then she noticed something. They'd been driving for over an hour. But she hadn't seen a single cafe. No other cars. No signs of town. Just endless trees. Sarah glanced at the GPS on the dashboard, the screen was blank. Marcus noticed her looking. It's okay, he said smoothly. Signal drops in these parts. Don't worry, we're almost there. She nodded, forcing a smile. But somewhere deep down, something shifted. A small, quiet voice whispering, something's wrong. Sometimes danger doesn't roar, it hums softly in the background, waiting for the moment you stop paying attention. What would you do right now if you were Sarah? No signal, no GPS, and the road's getting emptier by the minute. Would you speak up or stay quiet to avoid awkwardness? Let me know in the comments, I'm curious what you'd do. The cafe in the woods. By the time they pulled into Brown County, Sarah had almost convinced herself she'd been overreacting. The road opened up, the signal flickered back, and the scent of roasted coffee drifted through the open window. Maybe this really was just a date after all. The silver Ford F-150 slowed as the trees gave way to a clearing. A small wooden sign came into view, Mountain Brew Cafe, EST 1998. The kind of place couples found on weekend road trips, cozy porch, hanging flower baskets, the sound of soft jazz leaking through the open door. Marcus parked neatly and turned to her with an easy smile. Told you it was worth the drive. Sarah laughed, exhaling the tension she hadn't realized she was holding. There were people here, families, tourists, noise. The world felt normal again. Inside, the cafe smelled like cinnamon and coffee beans. A young barista with blonde hair and a nose ring smiled at them. Welcome to Mountain Brew. 2 for lunch. Marcus nodded. Yeah, please. By the window. They sat by a wide glass window overlooking the forest. The sunlight slanted through the trees, and for the first time all morning, Sarah felt herself relax. So, she said, stirring her coffee. You weren't kidding about this place. It's beautiful. Told you, Marcus replied. Hidden gems are always the best ones. They talked about music, travel, and the weirdness of online dating. He made her laugh again. Not forced laughter, real laughter. Every few minutes, he'd glance out the window, as if checking for something. But she told herself it was nothing. A couple of hikers walked in, mud on their boots. A group of college students ordered smoothies to go. Everything about the cafe screamed safe. In every true crime story, there's always that one moment where the victim feels safe again, that calm before the storm. This was Sarah's moment. As Marcus got up to pay the bill, Sarah wandered toward a bookshelf by the counter, travel guides, postcards, a few old photo frames. That's when she noticed her. A woman, mid-50s, short gray hair, wearing a park ranger's jacket, standing near the corner table, sipping black coffee. Her eyes were locked on Marcus. Not just watching, studying. Sarah caught the woman's gaze for a split second. The woman's expression softened, like she'd just recognized someone from a missing poster. When Marcus turned back with the receipt, the woman looked away quickly. Ready? He asked, cheerful again. Yeah, Sarah said, forcing a smile. Just looking at these postcards. As they stepped outside, Sarah felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned, it was the same woman. Up close, her park ranger badge read Inspector D. Hawkins, Brown County Forestry Unit. Sorry to bother you, the inspector said quietly, her voice low and firm. You came here with that man, didn't you? Sarah hesitated. Marcus? Yeah. Do you know him? The woman's eyes flicked toward the truck, where Marcus was waiting. Listen carefully, she whispered. You need to leave. Right now. Don't get back in that truck. Sarah blinked, confused. What are you talking about? He's not who he says he is, the inspector said. Please. Go inside, tell the barista to call the sheriff. Just don't go with him. Sarah's pulse quickened. You must be mistaken. He's been nothing but nice. The inspector leaned in closer. Her tone dropped to a whisper. Nice men don't show up here every few months with a new woman who never comes back. Sarah froze. Excuse me? You heard me. I've seen him before. Same truck. Different faces. Marcus honked lightly from the parking spot, smiling and gesturing for her to come. Everything okay? He called out through the window. The inspector straightened, her face unreadable. Please, she said quietly, never breaking eye contact with Sarah. Don't go with him. Sarah stood there for a second, torn between logic and disbelief. Her rational mind screamed impossible. But her gut whispered run. Sometimes the universe gives you a warning, soft, subtle, disguised as coincidence. Most people ignore it. Sarah almost did. She smiled nervously at the inspector. I appreciate it, but I think you've got the wrong guy. The woman's expression fell. I hope I don't. Sarah walked back toward the truck. Marcus smiled as she got in. Everything good? Yeah, she lied. Just someone asking for directions. Marcus chuckled. Small towns. People talk to everyone. The truck started. The cafe disappeared in the rearview mirror. And the inspector stood on the porch, watching them drive away, one hand reaching for her radio. If only Sarah had listened. But by the time anyone acted on that call, it was already too late. If a complete stranger told you to run from the person you were with, would you believe them, or would you brush it off like Sarah did? Drop your answer below, I'm reading every one. The drive from Mountain Brew to the Overlook took less than 10 minutes. But for Sarah, every mile felt heavier than the last. Marcus kept the conversation light as the truck climbed a narrow, winding road. The trees thinned, revealing patches of sky the color of steel. Sarah kept glancing at her phone, no bars again. That woman back at the cafe, she said finally. Who was she? Marcus let out a small laugh. Oh, her. Probably some ex-client or local busybody. I did some renovation work near here last year, one of those rich cabin owners who thought I charged too much. She's been weird ever since. Small towns, you know. Sarah nodded slowly. She said she recognized you. Yeah, from the job, Marcus replied quickly. Don't worry, I'm not famous or anything. He smiled, but his eyes stayed on the road, not on her. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Calm, too calm. Rehearsed. The truck came to a stop at a clearing overlooking a breathtaking view. Brown County stretched below them, rolling green hills, a thin ribbon of river glinting in the distance. Wow, Sarah whispered, stepping out. Yeah, Marcus said, standing behind her. Beautiful, isn't it? Hard to find places like this anymore. For a moment, she believed him. The wind caught her hair, sunlight spilled across the valley. The world felt wide and endless. Then her phone buzzed. Weak signal. 1 bar. A notification blinked at the top of her screen, message from Jessica, we found her. Call me. Sarah frowned. That's weird. Marcus glanced over. Something wrong. It's my friend. She just texted something strange, we found her. Probably autocorrect. Marcus's lips twitched, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, weird. Probably nothing. But his hand tightened subtly on the edge of the truck door. Knuckles white. Sarah's gut twisted. You okay? She asked. Fine, he said too quickly. Just, thinking. He moved closer, just enough for her to feel the shift in his energy, heavier, colder. You ever think about how some people just disappear out here? Marcus said, his tone suddenly distant. So much land. So many woods. You could scream and no one would hear. Sarah forced a laugh. That's a creepy thing to say on a first date. Sorry, he chuckled. Just a thought. This view does that to me. Makes me think about life, about people who vanish without anyone noticing. There it was again, that flicker. That shadow behind the charm. Sarah stepped back slightly. The air seemed thinner now, the silence sharper. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail alert from Jessica. She pressed play. Static. Then a panicked voice. Sarah, call me, please, don't. The message cut out. Everything okay? Marcus asked softly. Too softly. Sarah's pulse spiked. Yeah. Just, bad connection. Marcus tilted his head, studying her. You trust me, don't you, Sarah?" Of course, she lied. He smiled again. That same easy, practiced smile. But his next words were quiet, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "Good. Because this next part only works if you do." And right then, Sarah realized something she couldn't explain. It wasn't the view that made her dizzy. It was him. She looked out across the valley, pretending to admire the scenery, while her mind raced, calculating distance, exits, anything. Behind her, Marcus slipped his hands into his jacket pockets. The sound of metal clinking faintly. In every story, there's that invisible line, the one between safety and danger. Sarah had just stepped over it, and she didn't even know. What would you do if your friend sent a message like that, "We found her. Call me"? Right in the middle of a date. Would you leave immediately, or try to play it cool? Tell me in the comments, I want to hear your instincts. Remember, do not forget to comment where you are watching from, it matters to us. Silence and vanishing. When Sarah Mitchell's phone went dark that Saturday evening, no one thought much of it. Not at first. Sunday morning, 8:17 a.m. Jessica Parker sat at her kitchen counter, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. The sky outside was overcast, gray clouds hanging low over Indianapolis. She'd expected a message from Sarah by now. A photo of the cafe, maybe. A little text that said, "He's actually great." Instead, the last message on their thread was timestamped Saturday, 1:36 p.m. All good. Nice conversation. Beautiful day for a drive. Jessica frowned and sent a quick text. So, how was it? Did he make it through the true crime podcast test? No reply. By noon, she tried calling. Straight to voicemail. By 5 p.m., she called again. Then again. Still nothing. That night, Jessica's worry turned to dread. Monday morning, 7:45 a.m. At Smile Bright Dental Clinic, Sarah's name stayed grayed out on the employee sign-in board. By 9 a.m., the receptionist called her cell. No answer. By noon, her supervisor, Dr. Karen Lyle, called Jessica. Has anyone heard from Sarah? She didn't show up for her shift. That's not like her. Jessica's stomach dropped. She went on a date Saturday, with someone named Marcus Johnson. I haven't heard from her since. Have you called the police? Not yet. I didn't want to overreact. Jessica, it's been 2 days. Monday afternoon, 2:10 p.m. Detective Liam Graves of the Indianapolis Missing Persons Unit walked into Jessica's living room, notebook in hand. The TV was on mute, showing local news. On the coffee table, a photo of Sarah and her 2 daughters at a pumpkin patch. All smiles. Tell me everything, the detective said. Jessica explained, TINDER, the man named Marcus Johnson, the Brown County Cafe. She showed screenshots of their texts, the background check Sarah ran, the photo of the silver Ford F-150. Graves scribbled notes quickly. You said he owned a construction company? That's what he told her. Johnson Custom Builds, I think. Within hours, police traced the business registration. But the address led them not to an office, but to an empty field behind an abandoned gas station. No building. No mailbox. No sign of Marcus Johnson. When they ran his driver's license number, the database returned a result, registered to a deceased man. Monday evening, 7:32 p.m. Local TV broke the story. Indianapolis mother missing after Tinder date. The camera panned over photos of Sarah, her smile bright, her eyes kind. Her daughters, Emma and Lily, stood beside Jessica during the press conference, clutching each other's hands. Emma, her voice trembling, if you see her, please call the police. Please. My mom wouldn't just leave us. The reporter nodded solemnly. Authorities are urging anyone with information to come forward. The man Sarah was last seen with, Marcus Johnson, may have used multiple aliases. By midnight, the story had spread online. Hashtag Find Sarah Mitchell began trending across Twitter and Facebook. True crime bloggers picked it up. Reddit threads buzzed with theories, some compassionate, others cruel. But beneath all the noise, one truth echoed louder than anything. Sarah was gone. Tuesday, 9:14 a.m. Jessica received a call from Detective Graves. We traced her phone. The last ping came from a wooded area near Brown County State Park. We've got local deputies searching now. Jessica's knees went weak. That's where she said she was going. Graves paused. We also found a cafe, Mountain Brew. The owner remembers them. Said an inspector tried to warn Sarah to leave. Oh my God, Jessica whispered. So it's real. Yeah. But she didn't listen. And just like that, what had started as a hopeful Saturday afternoon turned into a statewide search. Helicopters circled over dense forest. Volunteers in bright orange vests combed the trails, calling her name. Dogs barked, dragging handlers through mud and brush. But hour after hour, the woods stayed silent. Wednesday, 3:27 p.m. Detective Graves stood beside a deputy near a ravine off State Road 46. A search dog had stopped, barking, pawing at the earth near a small clearing. Within minutes, yellow tape went up. The forest grew quiet except for radios crackling in the distance. No one spoke the words out loud. But they all knew. Thursday morning, 8 a.m. On TV, the hashtag shifted from hashtag Find Sarah Mitchell to hashtag Justice for Sarah Mitchell. Her photo, smiling in that same blue sweater, filled screens across the Midwest. Jessica whispered through tears, she just wanted to be happy again. That's all she wanted. The hardest part wasn't realizing Sarah was gone. It was realizing how easily she could have been anyone. Your friend. Your sister. Maybe even you. If your best friend told you she was going on a date like this, what safety steps would you make sure she took? Share your thoughts below, someone reading your comment might need that advice right now. The man who called himself Marcus Johnson didn't exist. Not really. And what detectives found next changed everything. Thursday afternoon, 2:40 p.m. Detective Liam Graves leaned back in his chair, exhaustion heavy in his eyes. The investigation room at the Indianapolis PD was buzzing, phones ringing, printers humming, the smell of burnt coffee in the air. They'd been chasing Marcus Johnson for 4 days now. Every lead, fake. Every phone number, prepaid and discarded. Every address, either abandoned or tied to someone long gone. Then, an analyst rushed in with a file. You need to see this. It was a facial recognition report. The man in Marcus's dating profile had appeared under at least 4 other names across multiple states, Michigan, Kentucky, Illinois, and Ohio. Different birthdays. Different backstories. But the same smile. The same eyes. The same man. Alias 1, Marcus Johnson, small business owner from Indianapolis. Alias 2, David Cross, widower, freelance architect, Louisville. Alias 3, Brian Keller, construction consultant, divorced, Ann Arbor. Alias 4, Daniel Cross, insurance advisor, single father, Chicago. And that last one, Daniel Cross, was the key. His real name wasn't Marcus Johnson. It was Daniel Everett Cross, age 44. Friday, 9:10 a.m. Detective Graves pulled up an old mugshot on the screen. It was him. Same jawline. Same faint scar under the chin. The file was long. 2008, fraud and identity theft, dismissed on technicality. 2013, credit card scam across state lines, served 2 years. 2017, parole violation, skipped town. And then, nothing. No records. No official address. Just silence, until Tinder. Friday afternoon, 4:32 p.m. The investigation team tracked one of Daniel's email aliases to a cloud account filled with screenshots of women's profiles, photos, and saved chat logs. Every folder labeled by first name. Sarah_M. Nicole_T. Heather_W. Jessica sat beside Detective Graves, trembling as she saw her best friend's smiling face among dozens of others. He did this to all of them. Looks like it. Same pattern. Same charm. Then he vanishes. Graves clenched his jaw. This wasn't about love. It was about control. Friday evening, 6:45 p.m. News broke again. Police identifies suspect in disappearance of Indianapolis woman, Daniel Cross, 44. The station aired his mugshot beside Sarah's photo. The contrast was chilling, her warmth, his cold stare. In Ohio, a real Marcus Johnson saw the story while scrolling through Facebook. Within minutes, he called the tip line. "That's my face," he said, voice shaking. "Those pictures are from my old LinkedIn. He stole them years ago. I didn't even know." He sent old photos, family, his dog, his business profile, all identical to the fake Tinder account. That was the final confirmation. The man everyone knew as Marcus Johnson never existed. He was a mask, stolen from another man's life. Saturday, 9 a.m. The task force went public. They released a warning about fake profiles tied to Daniel Cross's aliases. Within hours, more women came forward. Stories poured in from across the Midwest, same voice, same photo, same charm. Some had gone on dates. Some had planned to. And one message from a woman in Illinois hit hard. "He said he wanted to meet me at a cafe in the woods next weekend. I thought it was romantic." The entire room went silent. The realization was terrifying. Sarah Mitchell hadn't just met the wrong man, she'd stumbled into the path of someone who had done this before. And might still be doing it. Detective Graves stared at the corkboard covered in strings and photos. He's not just a scammer. He's a hunter. And we're late. Saturday night, 10 p.m. The comments under the news report flooded in. "This is why I don't trust online dating. She seemed like such a good person. There needs to be better background checks." But one comment stood out. "He's not done. Watch for the name Daniel Cross. He's still out there." The username was anonymous. The account was deleted within minutes. That's when investigators realized, this wasn't just about one woman. It was a pattern. A trail of deception stretching back years. And Daniel Cross was still one step ahead. How many people online do you think are actually who they say they are? Have you ever met someone who seemed too perfect to be true? Let me know in the comments, your story might save someone else. The woman in the cafe. The woman who warned Sarah Mitchell to leave that cafe wasn't a stranger after all. She was a ghost from another case, one the police thought had gone cold years ago. Sunday morning, 7:12 a.m. Inside the dim-lit evidence room at the Indianapolis PD, Detective Graves stared at the screen in disbelief. The lab report had just come in, a latent fingerprint recovered from the passenger side door handle of Daniel Cross's truck. It didn't belong to Sarah. It didn't belong to Daniel either. The fingerprint matched someone listed as missing since June 2017. Name, Elaine Porter. Age, 39. Occupation, State Safety Inspector, Brown County, Indiana. Elaine Porter. The woman from the cafe. The one who told Sarah, "You should leave. Now." Detective Graves rubbed his temples. That's impossible. She's been missing for 8 years. But there it was, her fingerprint, clear as day. Sunday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. The department pulled Elaine's old file from archives. She had vanished under mysterious circumstances while inspecting rural businesses for safety compliance, one of which was a construction firm owned by Daniel Cross. According to the report, she had visited his site 3 times before her disappearance. He was never officially charged, but the timing was uncanny. Sunday evening, 6 p.m. The news spread like wildfire. Investigators linked 2 missing persons cases, 2017 Brown County disappearance connected to current Tinder murder investigation. Local media ran side-by-side photos. Elaine Porter, brown hair, serious smile. Sarah Mitchell, warm eyes, gentle expression. Both women, gone without a trace. Both connected to the same man. True crime podcasts and YouTube sleuths dove in instantly. Reddit threads exploded with theories. Was Elaine an accomplice? Did she escape and try to warn Sarah? Maybe she was undercover, trying to trap Daniel. The case had officially gone viral. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. Graves sat across from a digital forensics analyst. If Elaine's been missing since 2017, how was she at that cafe in 2019? The analyst hesitated. There's something else. We found partial security footage from that day at Mountain Brew. The video was grainy, time-stamped and shaky, but unmistakable. Elaine, alive, sitting near the window. She watches Sarah and Daniel enter. Then she stands, walks past their table, and whispers something to Sarah. Moments later, she disappears toward the back exit, never seen again. Tuesday, 10:22 a.m. The cafe owner was interviewed on live TV. Yeah, I remember that woman. Came in alone, looked nervous. Kept glancing at the door. When she left, she didn't take her coat. I found it hanging there after closing, still got it in Lost and Found. Police examined the coat. In the pocket, they found a small folded note, smudged, water-stained, barely legible. It read, "He's not Marcus. He's Daniel. Check the river." Detective Graves exhaled sharply. She knew. Elaine knew who he was. Maybe she'd survived once and came back to warn the next woman. The case was no longer about one missing person, it was about 2 women bound by the same predator, one trying desperately to save the other. Wednesday, 4 p.m. True crime communities couldn't stop talking. What if Elaine escaped him in 2017 and has been hiding ever since? Maybe she was gathering evidence. Maybe she was the only one who ever got away. But then came a chilling update from the forensics lab: the coat's fibers matched samples found in Daniel's basement. That meant one thing. Elaine Porter hadn't escaped after all. Daniel had her coat, and somehow, she had resurfaced only to vanish again 2 years later. Who was Elaine Porter, savior or ghost? And how could someone missing for 2 years appear just long enough to warn another woman before disappearing forever? Detective Graves stared at the evidence wall, photos, notes, pins connecting 2 lives across 2 years. Somewhere between those threads, the truth waited. Do you think Elaine was trying to save Sarah, or was she part of something darker? Drop your theory below. The best comment might be featured in the next episode. The note Elaine left said to check the river. But what police found instead was far worse than anyone could have imagined. Thursday morning, 9:42 a.m. A light rain drizzled over the Brown County self-storage facility, a stretch of gray metal units lined up against the fog-draped trees. Detective Graves stood under his umbrella, scanning the clipboard in his hand. Unit 214. Leased under the name Matthew Klein. The ID was fake. The address was fake. But the phone number used on the rental matched one of the burner phones tied to Daniel Cross's trail of aliases. A locksmith popped the rusted lock. The metal door groaned open. A wave of cold air and chemical scent drifted out, bleach, paint, and something else. Inside were plastic bins, meticulously labeled, stacked in rows like an archive. Not of possessions, but of people. Thursday, 10:08 a.m. Detectives moved in slowly, gloved hands careful not to disturb anything. Each bin had a woman's name written in marker: Anna L., 2015, Carla M., 2016, Elaine P., 2017. And the last one, at the very bottom, marked in red ink: Sarah M., 2019. Graves froze. His pulse hammered in his ears. He lifted the lid. Inside were folders, neatly organized, screenshots, printed emails, Tinder chat logs, even photographs of Sarah taken from her social media. Every message she'd ever sent to Marcus was printed and highlighted, as if studied, dissected, rehearsed. Taped to the underside of the lid was a note. Handwritten. Precise. Project Hearts, version 7.2. Target profile: recently divorced, single mother, Midwest region. Objective: trust. Capture. Silence. Graves' stomach turned. This wasn't just predatory behavior, it was a system. Thursday, 10:37 a.m. Another detective, Ramirez, called from across the unit. "You need to see this." At the back, stacked beside the bins, was a black duffel bag containing 8 burner phones, each labeled with initials and dates. Every phone held a different online identity: Marcus, Tyler, Aaron, Dylan, and Matthew. Different voices, different backstories, all crafted for one purpose: to lure, isolate, and erase. Graves' hand trembled as he scrolled through one of the devices. "Hey beautiful. You seem real. Not like the others." The messages mirrored each other across every profile, slight variations, same emotional bait. One phrase appeared again and again in every chat log. "You can trust me." The same word Sarah had repeated in her messages. The same word Elaine had written in her note. Trust. It was his weapon. Thursday, 12:15 p.m. On a small metal shelf at the back of the unit sat a manila folder labeled Hearts Archive. Inside were photos, grainy surveillance shots, women getting into cars, standing outside cafes, sitting alone at park benches. Each one smiled at a man who wasn't really there. Pinned at the very end of the collection was a handwritten journal, detailing what he called experiments. Test 1, Michigan, incomplete. Test 2, Ohio, too risky. Test 7, Indiana, success. Graves closed the book and whispered. He documented everything. Like it was a study. Friday morning, 8:30 a.m. The media got hold of the leak before the department could contain it. Hashtag Project Hearts trended globally within hours. News anchors called him the Tinder ghost, others called him the algorithm killer. Dating app companies faced public outrage. How could this happen again? But the public didn't know the full truth yet. Inside that storage unit was one more thing. Friday, 11:02 a.m. Detective Ramirez pried open a small safe bolted to the concrete floor. Inside, a flash drive, a set of keys, and a photograph. The photo showed Daniel Cross smiling beside Elaine Porter, alive, happy, maybe even in love. On the back, written in faint pencil, were the words: "She helped me find them. Until she betrayed me." Graves stared at it in stunned silence. So Elaine hadn't just been another target, she'd been part of it. Maybe willingly. Maybe not. Either way, her story wasn't over. For years, Daniel Cross had perfected the illusion of love. He wasn't looking for companionship, he was collecting proof that he could control it. Every match, every smile, every life, was part of Project Hearts. Graves shut the storage door and looked into the gray morning light. They had evidence, yes, but no Daniel. No trace of where he'd gone after Sarah disappeared. And somewhere out there, another notification would soon ping on someone's phone. New match, Marcus, 43, loves hiking and coffee. Would you still trust dating apps after hearing this? Or do you think it's just bad luck, not the app's fault? Tell me in the comments, I'm curious what you think. They thought the hard drive would give them answers. But what it revealed was a man who never spoke from the heart, only from a script. Saturday, 9:10 a.m. In the dim glow of the digital forensics lab at the Indiana State Police headquarters, the hum of computers filled the air. Monitors blinked with scrolling code, data maps, and fragments of corrupted files. Detective Graves stood beside forensic tech Lena Cho, who'd spent the last 12 hours trying to decrypt the flash drive found in Daniel Cross's storage unit. "You're not gonna believe this," she muttered, adjusting her headset. "Every message he ever sent, every emoji, every, 'good morning beautiful,' they're all here." The folder opened. Inside, hundreds of text transcripts, each labeled by date and victim initials. Each conversation was nearly identical, word for word. Saturday, 9:28 a.m. Lena clicked into one labeled SM_2019. "Morning, Sarah. Hope today treats you well. Thinking of you." Then another, EP_2017. "Morning, Elaine. Hope today treats you well. Thinking of you." The same message. The same timing. The same punctuation. He wasn't improvising affection, he was performing it. Graves leaned closer. He wrote love like code. Each file included a response chart, mapping how each woman replied, happy, hesitant, sad, and Daniel's next move adjusted accordingly. It was emotional engineering. An algorithm of empathy. Saturday, 10:05 a.m. Further down the drive, Lena found a document titled script_hearts_master.docs. When she opened it, the room went silent. It wasn't just dialogue. It was a blueprint. Step-by-step stages of manipulation. 1. Day 1 to 3, establish trust. Mirror hobbies. Complement intelligence, not looks. 2. Day 4 to 6, introduce personal tragedy. Create emotional bond. 3. Day 7 to 10, plan first meeting. Offer reassurance of safety. Use transparency keywords, trust, verify, safety. 4. If suspicion arises, deflect with humor. I promise I'm not an axe murderer. He'd even written reminders like a filmmaker preparing lines. Lena's hands shook slightly. He planned conversations like scripts for a play. Graves whispered. Except his audience never made it to curtain call. Saturday, 11:17 a.m. The deeper they went, the darker it became. There were folders named Prototype 1 through Prototype 8. Each represented a different alias, tested in different regions: Chicago, Columbus, Grand Rapids, Louisville. Each with photos stolen from real men, all with similar looks. Then the pattern broke. The folder, Prototype 9, active. Inside were recent timestamps, including the week Sarah vanished. But 2 days before she disappeared, the trail suddenly ended. Everything after March 21st was wiped clean. That's deliberate, Lena said. He didn't just delete it. He encrypted over it manually. You mean someone else could have done it? Graves asked. Possibly. But whoever did it knew what they were doing, really knew. Saturday, 12:32 p.m. As Lena ran a recovery scan, a fragment of a deleted file reappeared. Just one line survived the data purge. She found out what Elaine did. Graves froze. Elaine Porter. You're saying Sarah found something before she disappeared? Lena nodded slowly. That's what it looks like. And whoever wiped the rest of this drive didn't want anyone to see what she found. Saturday, 1:45 p.m. In a folder labeled Voice Clips, Lena played a distorted audio file. Static. Breathing. Then Daniel's voice, calm, rehearsed. You have to understand, they always ask the same questions. Are you safe? Are you real? I just give them what they want to hear. It's not lying if it feels true to them. A pause. Then, softly, another voice, a woman's. You're not supposed to keep the recordings. You worry too much, Elaine, Daniel replied. They'll never find us. Graves stared at the monitor. Elaine was in on it. Lena frowned. Or she was pretending to be, to stop him. Saturday, 3 p.m. They printed the recovered logs, lines of dialogue, emoji sequences, time stamps, and pinned them across the evidence board. Each conversation mirrored the next, identical pattern stretching across 4 years and 8 women. The realization hit like a punch. Daniel Cross wasn't just a predator. He was a methodologist of manipulation. His victims were data points. His love stories, rehearsed experiments. But someone had interrupted him mid-performance. Someone who knew his system and had tried to erase him from it. Maybe Elaine, Graves muttered. Or someone else entirely. And in the corner of one recovered folder, a single untouched text file sat quietly. Its title. Version 10, Restart. When Lena clicked it, only one sentence appeared. She was smarter than the rest. Do you think Elaine helped him, or tried to stop him? And what kind of person documents every conversation like code? Drop your theory below, I read every one. The discovery. When the dogs stopped by the water's edge, the forest went quiet. They all knew, they weren't searching anymore. They were finding. Wednesday, 6:42 a.m. Mist rolled over Salt Creek, painting the water silver in the early light. The wind was still, and the sound of boots crunching through wet leaves was the only thing that broke the silence. Detective Graves stood at the bank, arms folded, watching the search dogs weave through the brush. 5 days. It had been exactly 5 days since Sarah Mitchell was last seen. And every hour since, the search had felt like a prayer whispered into fog. Fading before it could reach anyone who might be listening. Wednesday, 7:11 a.m. Handler Officer Reeves called out. Kona's got something. The black Labrador froze near a cluster of fallen logs beside the water. Her nose pressed into the mud, tail stiff. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that made every detective instinctively hold their breath. Reeves knelt down, brushing away leaves. He didn't speak at first. He just looked up slowly at Graves. Personal item, he said quietly. Looks like jewelry. He held up a silver bracelet, tarnished and caked in mud, but still glinting faintly in the light. The inscription read. To Mom, Love, Katie and Elle. Graves exhaled sharply. Her daughters' names. The radio crackled. Within minutes, yellow tape surrounded the area. Drones circled overhead. Camera flashes punctuated the solemn rhythm of discovery. Wednesday, 7:58 a.m. By the time Jessica Clark arrived, the sun had risen higher, painting the treetops gold, a cruel contrast to the cold reality on the ground. She stepped out of the unmarked police SUV, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Her face was pale, trembling. You said you found something, she whispered. We just need you to confirm it, Graves replied gently. He led her closer to the taped perimeter. An officer held up the bracelet in an evidence bag. Jessica's knees buckled. That's hers, she said, voice cracking. She never took it off. Not once. Graves caught her before she fell. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the creek and Jessica's quiet sobbing. Wednesday, 8:12 a.m. A camera crew from Channel 8 News stood at a respectful distance, recording the moment the lead detective signaled the team to begin a more detailed search of the creek's edge. He didn't need to speak, the look in his eyes said it all. The search dogs were repositioned downstream, while divers began preparing their gear. The Brown County Sheriff's Office called in forensic units from Bloomington. The scene, though controlled, was filled with emotion, quiet prayers from officers who'd done this too many times. "Every case feels different," one of them said softly. "But when it's someone who was just looking for love, it hits harder." Wednesday, 9:25 a.m. Jessica sat on the tailgate of a police SUV, wrapped in a blanket. She scrolled through her phone, opening Sarah's last text. "All good. Nice conversation." It was the kind of message that looked harmless, ordinary, until you knew what came after. She whispered to herself. "I told her to share her location. I told her." Her voice cracked again, and she covered her face, breaking down as the camera zoomed in discreetly from afar. Wednesday, 10:07 a.m. A faint note played from the field team's radio, the soft ping signaling confirmation. They'd found something beneath the creek's shallows, not a body, but a phone case lodged under a flat rock. The faded sticker on the back read, "Choose joy." It was Sarah's. And inside the case, protected by layers of silt, they found her SIM card intact. Lena Cho, the digital forensic specialist, arrived within the hour. She sealed the SIM card carefully in a static-free pouch. "If this still works," she said, "it might tell us exactly where she was, and who she was with." Graves looked out across the creek. "Then let's bring her home." Wednesday, 12 p.m. As news broke, the online campaign #FindSarahMitchell turned into #JusticeForSarah. Tributes flooded in from strangers across the country, people who had never met her, but felt like they knew her. Messages of heartbreak, solidarity, and warnings to others filled the comment sections. This could have been any of us. Online dating is scary when trust can be faked. The story had become national. But for Jessica and the daughters, it wasn't a story, it was the end of one life, and the beginning of a lifetime without her. As the screen fades to black, gentle piano music swells. A single line appears on screen. "For every Sarah who trusted too soon, and for every Jessica still searching, your story matters." Then, softly, the narrator adds, "If you were in Jessica's shoes, would you still hold on to hope? Let me know what you'd do, I read every comment." 3 days after Sarah Mitchell's bracelet was found, a truck turned up on a quiet service road outside Louisville, Kentucky. It was what they found inside that froze investigators cold. Saturday, 6:32 a.m. A truck stop off Interstate 65, south of Louisville. A rusted Chevrolet Silverado sat parked beneath a flickering streetlight, its windshield streaked with dust and rain. No license plates. No keys in the ignition. To most drivers passing by, it looked abandoned. To the Kentucky State Police, it was the first real lead since the discovery at Salt Creek. When the forensics team arrived, they cordoned off the area and began their sweep. It didn't take long. Inside the cab, wedged between the passenger seat and the glove compartment, was a crumpled piece of paper. The note read, "They'll never find me. You're all still swiping." 5 words, but they carried the weight of dozens of missing names, vanished faces, broken families. Detective Graves, who had driven down from Indiana to assist, stared at the note under the evidence light. "He's taunting us," he said quietly. "Or, he's telling the truth." The rest of the truck told a darker story. The seats were soaked, not with blood, but with rainwater, as if the windows had been left cracked open for days. The dashboard GPS had been ripped out. And in the back seat, officers found 2 travel mugs, both half full of cold coffee. One had Sarah's fingerprints. The other matched Elaine Porter, the woman from the cafe who vanished in 2017. But the twist came in the lab results. The blood samples taken from the driver's side door showed mixed DNA, one profile belonging to Daniel Cross, the other to Elaine. "So what does that mean?" a young officer asked. Graves rubbed the bridge of his nose. "It means she was either helping him escape, or fighting for her life." Sunday, 9 a.m. News of the truck's discovery hit national headlines. "The Tinder ghost, killer or couple?" read one tabloid. Online forums exploded with theories. Elaine was in on it, she lured women for him. No, she escaped and killed him to survive. They're both alive, playing the system. The truth was, no one knew. The surveillance footage from the truck stop was corrupted. Security cameras on the nearby highway had been disabled 2 days earlier, intentionally. It was as if someone had erased the trail before vanishing into the night. Later that week, detectives scoured the surrounding woodlands near the truck's location. They found footprints, 2 sets, both heading in opposite directions. One led toward the highway. The other disappeared into dense forest. The search continued for weeks. Helicopters. Dogs. National coverage. Nothing. It was as if Daniel Cross, and Elaine Porter, had evaporated. 2 months later, Sarah's family held a memorial service at a small church in Indianapolis. Jessica spoke softly before a crowd of mourners. Sarah believed in love. That's what made her brave enough to try again. But the truth is, she deserved the kind of love that would have kept her safe. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The service ended with a moment of silence, but in the back pew, Detective Graves sat thinking about that note. "They'll never find me. You're all still swiping." He couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a confession. It was a warning. December, 2020, 8 months later. A new Tinder profile surfaced in Cincinnati, using the name Mark Daniels. The photos were eerily familiar, same dog, same easy smile. But the account vanished within hours, deleted before police could trace it. For the online community, it reignited every question. Was Daniel still out there? Was Elaine alive? Or was someone continuing his work? To this day, the truck sits in an evidence yard near Louisville, the doors rusted, the seats untouched. The note remains sealed in a plastic bag, a chilling reminder that some ghosts don't fade, they log back in. Case status, unsolved. The FBI keeps the file open under Operation Tinder Flame, linking similar disappearances across 3 states. None of the DNA has led to an active match. But every few months, a new online profile, a familiar face, appears for just long enough to remind everyone watching that the story isn't over. Was Elaine a victim, or a partner? What's your theory? Let me know below, I read every single comment. For weeks after the discovery, Indianapolis felt quieter. Like the whole city was still holding its breath for a woman who would never come home. It began with candles. Just a few, flickering in the cool April wind outside Monument Circle downtown. But by nightfall, there were hundreds. Photos of Sarah Mitchell lined the steps, smiling with her daughters, laughing at a picnic, holding a coffee mug that read, "Love wins." Her friends, co-workers, and neighbors came together not to mourn the way she died, but to remember the way she lived. Jessica stood at the microphone, her voice steady but raw. Sarah wasn't reckless. She was careful. She did everything right, she checked his ID, she shared her location, she trusted her instincts. And still, it wasn't enough. Her words hit every person there, men and women alike, in the chest. Because everyone had a Sarah in their life. A sister. A best friend. A mother who just wanted to feel loved again. In the months that followed, Jessica launched a small online campaign called Swipe Safe. It started with one video, Sarah's story, told with photos, messages, and the haunting line from that final text. All good. Nice conversation. Within a week, it had over 5 million views. Women from all over the US, Canada, and the UK shared their own experiences, near misses, uneasy dates, silent fears. A global conversation began. And for the first time, Sarah's daughters saw that their mother's story wasn't just tragedy. It was warning turned into purpose. Out of her loss came light, the kind that burns quietly, guiding others away from the same dark road. Detective Graves later admitted in an interview that her case changed the department's entire protocol for missing persons in dating scenarios. He said, "Now, when someone reports a loved one missing after meeting someone online, we move immediately. No more 48-hour waiting period." Sarah changed that. Her name became a symbol, printed on brochures, used in seminars, taught in self-defense classes. The Sarah Protocol, they called it. Because she'd done everything right, and still became the cautionary tale no one could forget. Every year, on March 23, Jessica and Sarah's daughters returned to Brown County, not to the woods, but to the lookout above it. They bring sunflowers, her favorite, and place them near the guardrail. The younger daughter once said softly on camera, "We don't come here to remember how she died. We come here to remind ourselves to live, but to live smarter." And for those who follow true crime stories online, Sarah's case still surfaces in threads, podcasts, and documentaries. Because no matter how much time passes, some stories don't fade. They echo, every time someone opens a dating app, every time a friend says, "Text me when you get home." Sarah Mitchell just wanted love, but found a lie carefully built to look like it. She trusted a smile that wasn't real, a voice that told her what she needed to hear. And that's what makes her story so important, because she could have been any of us. If you want to keep Sarah's story alive, share her warning. Subscribe for more real stories that remind us, trust is earned, not promised. And never forget, sometimes, the most dangerous people were the most familiar faces.